loud. I'm going to take it down a notch. If you have a Bible and want to open to 1 Samuel 7, we're going to get to 1 Samuel 7 in just a minute. While you're looking up 1 Samuel 7, I want to ask you an age-old question that I'm sure you've been asked before. If your house was on fire and you could only grab 3 things, what would you grab as you're running out of the house? Turn to somebody next to you and just tell them one thing. What is something you'd grab if your house was on fire and you're heading out of the house? What would you save? Your Bible. What would you save? You're still thinking. Your passport. That was one that I thought of. Yeah. Your children. Your children get to go with you. Yeah. We hope we would all take our children. Yeah. This survey went out nationwide a year ago, and 66% of people said the first thing they would grab was their phones. Not a surprise. Passports, computer, photo albums that aren't on your phones, those are the kind of things. What would you grab if your house was on fire? This is played as a game. It's presented for discussion. And really, it's a prompt about what are your priorities? How are you going to clarify what's the most important thing to you? Now, for the Israelites, this was an easy answer. For about 500 years, if your country was on fire, what would be the one thing you would grab? And they would say, the Ark of the Covenant. Our most treasured possession. The Ark of the Covenant, as you know, was a wooden box overlaid with gold. It had a gold cover called the mercy seat and 2 beautiful angels on top of that. And more than the price of gold or the national heritage of this box, it was a symbol of God's presence. Because we know that in Exodus, God said, have them make me a sanctuary, and I will come dwell within them. And I will rest upon this box in the most holy place. My presence will be with them, and I will communicate with them. And that was so precious to the children of Israel. And for 500 years, that box moved with them wherever they went. And the pillar of light and the pillar of cloud rested over the box, and it was a symbol of God with them. It was so important to them. What happens to us when something is precious and we have it for a long time? Sometimes we forget why it's so precious to us. Sometimes we stop seeing it. Sometimes we take it for granted. 500 years after God gave them this box, we get to 1 Samuel 4. You guys are in 1 Samuel 7, but 1 Samuel 4, we read that there was a terrible war with the Philistines, and Israel was losing, and they panicked, and they said, oh, I know what we need. Bring our good luck charm to battle. Go get that good luck charm and bring it to battle. And they brought it into battle, and when they saw it, they were so thrilled to see it that a huge roar went up. And the Philistines heard a roar that shook the ground. They said, what is going on? And someone got the message, the Ark of the Covenant has just come to camp. And the Philistines knew about the Ark of the Covenant. They said, oh no, their God does great things. That's the God of the plagues. That's the God of the Exodus. We're in trouble. And the Philistines rallied together and said, listen, they have their good luck charm. We're in trouble. We've got to fight like we've never fought before, or else they're going to take over us. And they did. They fought like they had never fought before, and they destroyed the Israelite army, and they stole the Ark of the Covenant. 500 years, the Ark of the Covenant was in Israel as a symbol of God's presence, and in this bad move, it goes to the Philistine army. That's 1 Samuel 4. 1 Samuel 5, the Philistines have the Ark of the Covenant, and they say, look at our trophy. Look at the trophy we have of battle. and they parade it around their country, and they put it in their temple. And you know this chapter is comical because it doesn't work out real well for them. It's not a trophy. It was not a great symbol of their victory. They come to their temple in the morning, and their idols are on the floor in pieces, and their countrymen get sick. And all of 1 Samuel 5, they're just having one disaster after another. So in 1 Samuel 6, they say, we've had it for 7 months. It's a disaster. We want it out of here. If our house is on fire, we're not taking this. We want it. We don't want anything to do with it. It is not special to us. We want to get rid of it. They get a cart and they hook it to a cow and take it out of their country. That's an interesting story too. And it goes back into Israel. The Levites put it on a rock while they try to figure out what to do with it. And here we have another problem. A group of Israelites say, ooh, the Ark of the Covenant, our national treasure. I would pay money to see what's in it. Do you think that Aaron's rod is still budded in it? Do you think that the jar of manna is still in it? Wouldn't it be fun to look at the 10 Commandments? And a group of Israelites in that area, 70 of them, treat it like a carnival attraction. And they come up and they open it, and the glory of God destroys them. It's not a carnival attraction. So they send messengers to Kiriath Jearim, a nearby town, and they say, the Philistines have returned the ark of God, and we don't want it here. Do something with it. Get rid of it. And so we get to 1 Samuel 7. After 500 years of a national treasure and 7 months of a big problem, somebody do something with the Ark of the Covenant because we don't want it here. 1 Samuel 7, verse 1. So the men of Kiriath Jearim came, and they took up the Ark of God, and they brought it to Abinadab's house on a hill, and they consecrated Eleazar his son to guard the Ark of the Lord. And the Ark remained in Kiriath Jearim a long time, 20 years in all. We're not told why they picked this house. The idea is 3 reasons. It was close, and it was on a hill, and there was a young man that could be consecrated to guard the ark. That was the qualifications. And they put it there. And here is this family, all of a sudden, the family of Abinadab, and they have the Ark of the Covenant. We know 4 people in this family. We know the father, Abinadab. We know the consecrated older son, Eleazar. And we know that he has 2 younger sons, Uzzah and Ahio. That's the family. And they know the long revered history of the ark. They know about Exodus, and they know about the creation of the sanctuary, and they know the ark was built. They also know the recent history, which is a little bit scary, from the last 7 months. And they take that ark and they tuck it away. They hide it because they don't know what to do with it. Just tuck it away. For 20 years. How long is 20 years? What were you doing in 2005? Has your life changed in those 20 years? I think it's better going that way than going forward. Where might you be in 2045? Ooh, that's a long ways. It's a long time to have the national treasure, the religious symbol of your country, hidden away. But Abinadab's family say, what do you do with a box? It's a little iffy. What do you do with the box? And so the most sacred object in history is tucked away. What would that look like for us? We have kind of a similar story to this in our backyard. In the early 1900s, there was a man named David Finley. He was born in South Carolina. He was a wonderful man. He grew up to be a writer and a lawyer. He was thoughtful. He married a woman from Virginia named Margaret. She was an architect and a sculptor. So he got interested in art. And they moved to Virginia and then to D.C., and they were very involved. They were service-minded people. They got into politics. They began to work. They had a busy social life. And in the mid-1900s, there was a lot going on. They became very, very busy people. And then one day, David got appointed to a new job, a new part of his career. And right before he took on his new role, he needed a vacation. D.C. was hot, and it was crowded, and it was busy, and he needed a break. And he accepted an invitation from an old friend whose name you might recognize. Her name was Edith Vanderbilt. She said, "Why don't you come down and visit me?" And he made his first trip to this area, to Asheville. And for the first time, he toured the Biltmore House. And he fell in love. Some of you have been to the Biltmore House, most of you probably. You can have an idea of what he fell in love with. I think, this is just my imagination, that he walked through the house and then went on that big back porch. And he looked at the beautiful mountains, could see the river, and he said, "There is something about this place. It feels peaceful and it feels safe to me." And he and Margaret had a fantastic vacation in Asheville, like I'm hoping you're having here at Junaluska. Just enjoying the scenery and the beauty and the peace and the quiet. And then they headed back to D.C. and back to his new job, which was the first director of the National Gallery of Art in Washington, D.C. And he was responsible for collecting the nation's prized artwork from all over the world and displaying it so that people could come and walk through the National Gallery of Art and see the rich history through the eyes of an artist. To see what people had painted in the past. And he was just getting going with this new role when World War II ramped up. And he began hearing about Hitler going from Warsaw to Amsterdam to Paris and stealing from the galleries of art for Hitler's plan of a massive art museum, the biggest one in the world. Luckily, that was all far away and overseas. And then we had Pearl Harbor. And then there was rumors that there were German submarines from Maine to North Carolina. And all of a sudden, people started saying, this is getting too close to home. We're getting worried about this. Finley now was not in charge of displaying the art. It was his job to protect it. And he realized that he needed somewhere out of D.C. in case D.C. got attacked. He needed somewhere safe and quiet, and yet someplace modern enough that they were waterproof. And as he thought, something came to his mind, the Biltmore House. And he called his friend Edith and said, "I have a problem. Is there any way?" And Edith said, "Of course, I know just the place." Edith was always renovating in the Biltmore House, even though people were already touring it at that time. And she went into a room called the music room on the first floor. It was unfinished, had never been finished. And she got a crew and said, "Hey, I have a little job for you. I have an idea." And they didn't know what they were doing, but they built steel shelves, vertical shelves, and a huge steel locking door, and they covered it with a curtain. And they worked at night, and the next day people came and toured in and saw the music room and saw the curtain and went to the next room. And in January 1942, a load of treasures worth millions of dollars was loaded up in a train and sent down to Asheville. And it was picked up in a truck in the middle of a terrible snowstorm, in the middle of the night, a very dangerous drive from the train up to the Biltmore House, and tucked away in the Biltmore House. And only a very few people knew this was even happening. I want to tell you some of the paintings that were hidden in the Biltmore House. I'd said it was like a highlights from Art History 101 college class. 62 paintings and 17 sculptures. Raphael, Vermeer, Rembrandt, Goya, Botticelli's Adoration of the Magi from 1478. Rembrandt's Self-Portrait from 1659. Gilbert Stuart's George Washington from 1795. The treasures of our country and our world hidden away in the Biltmore House for 2 years. And every day, employees of the Biltmore House and visitors to the Biltmore House and citizens of Asheville and people in North Carolina walked through the house and peeked into the music room and had no idea of the treasures that were hidden in the house for 2 years. Do you know that today almost 4 million people a year go to the National Gallery of Art to look at these paintings? And at the end of 2 years, when the war was over, it was now public. Hey, we are bringing our paintings home. And people in Asheville said, what? That was right here and we never knew it? Can you imagine a cleaner at the Biltmore House saying, are you kidding? What I missed out on for 2 years. And there are pictures that you can see of these paintings being loaded on trucks outside the Biltmore House and then sent back to Asheville. But not just loaded up on trucks. David Finlay planned a parade, a celebration. Our national treasures are coming home. And it was a huge deal in D.C., a big fanfare, a big celebration that the treasures were coming home. Well, King David did not know David Finlay, but they had this similar idea. Because after 20 years, so much had happened in Israel. King David was king, and he was establishing his reign in Jerusalem, and he wanted the Ark of the Covenant with him. He wanted the glory of God to be there in the center of the country. And he wanted a big celebration. He wanted it brought back. And people remembered, oh yeah, I think this is where it is. And David got a group together, 30,000 young men and a huge band, the army and music. And they marched to Kiriath Jearim. No mention of Abinadab there. Maybe the father had passed away. No mention of Eliezer, who had been consecrated with guarding the ark. Just the mention of Abinadab's 2 younger sons, who we know were maybe a bit of a knucklehead, both of them, to put it nicely. God had prescribed how we move the ark. There were rings on it, and Levites were supposed to put poles on it and carry it on their shoulders so that nothing would come between them and the presence of God. And Uzzah and Ahio knew that, but they said, no, how we want to do it is the way the Philistines did it. We're going to get a fancy cart. That will be a better showpiece. We're going to have a fancy cart that the ark goes on, and then people can see it more clearly. And God said, nobody is to touch the ark except for priests. And Uzzah and Ahio said, no need for priests. We got it. We're here. We will handle it. And Ahio went in front and Uzzah went to the side. And you get the idea. This was about them and their 15 minutes in the spotlight as they moved the ark out of their home. Hey, we've had it for 20 years. We've had it for 20 years. Now we'll let David take it. You guys know what happened. The ark on the cart stumbled, the oxen stumbled, and the ark shook. And it says that Uzzah reached out and took hold of the ark. And the Lord's anger burned against Uzzah because of his irreverent act, and the Lord struck him down, and he died beside the ark. And for years when I read this story, I didn't like it. I didn't like that, oh, the ark's in trouble, and he reached out to steady it, and God said, you're out of it. You disobeyed me, and struck him down. But Ellen White said, Uzzah was a man of presumption and arrogance. This wasn't a momentary thing. Eugene Peterson said, Uzzah's death was not sudden. It was 20 years in the making. And in that moment, God said, I cannot let you treat my presence in such a cavalier manner. The procession stops. David sees Uzzah on the ground. He realizes that in a lot of ways he's responsible. Something went wrong. David was afraid of the Lord that day, and he said, how can the ark come to me? How can the ark come to me? He's not willing to take the ark to the city of David. He knows he needs to understand better what happened. And so he looks around, and there's a little house right there, not on the hill, not with a young strapping man that can be consecrated as a guard, just a little house. And he says, put it there. And it was the house of Obed-Edom. And we don't know a lot about Obed-Edom, but here's what we can guess. Obed-Edom was not irreverent. He was reverent. When the ark was brought in the house, he had a deep feeling of respect. And he was not presumptuous, he was unselfish. And he knew the history and the weight and the holiness of this Ark of the Covenant, and it was brought into his house. And he and his family surrounded it with a sweetness and a gentleness and an eagerness and a joy and a deep respect for what God's power could do. Hope was in their house. And they didn't tuck it away. It was their front and center, and they were aware of it every time they walked into the house. We have to use our sanctified imaginations here, but I would guess the next morning when Obed-Edom went to work, he turned to his wife, and behind his wife was the Ark of the Covenant, and he said, I love you. I'm grateful for you. I'm so appreciative of what you're going to do with our children today. Please have a good day. And she looked at the ark and she said to him, thank you so much for the hard work you're going to do today. Go bless people. And the little children heard their parents and they saw the ark. And when one asked for a toy, the other shared it. And they didn't yell at each other. And the neighbor dropped by. And she said as she left, I feel something in my chest that I don't recognize. It's got to be the presence of God. And the flowers outside the house began to bloom hugely, and company came over for dinner, and they left saying that was the best meal we've ever eaten. That was the richest conversation we've ever had. That was the hardest we've ever laughed. Only explanation is God is in this house. The cul-de-sac began to change. Everybody said, wow, I want my house to look better too. I want my family to do better. The town began to change. The crops grew and the animals had more animals and they gave off better milk and the chickens had millions of eggs. Something happened. We don't know. The sun was shining. We just know that in 3 months, word got to David. The ark of the Lord remained in the house of Obed-Edom for 3 months, and the Lord blessed him and his entire household. And David was told, the Lord has blessed the household of Obed-Edom and everything he has because the ark of the Lord, the presence of the Lord is in that house so strong, it's changing everything. And David moved from fear to curiosity to longing. I want the presence of God in my city, in my country, in my house. And David went down again to bring the ark of the Lord. And this time, he did his research and he did it right. And the Levites carried the ark on their shoulders, and the priests were there in case they were needed. And there was a sound of trumpets and dancing and singing and joy. The Bible is a collection of stories of people who were or who were not aware of the presence of God. You can look through the Bible and divide it in those ways. You can see Jacob waking up with his head on a rock from the ladder into heaven saying, surely God was in this place and I was not aware of it. You can see the children of Israel in Exodus standing between the Egyptians and the Red Sea saying, why did God abandon us and leave us here to die? And God saying, I'm right here. Wait till you see the miracle that I'm about to bring to you. You can see 3 people walk into the fiery furnace and everyone saying, didn't we put 3 in there? There's 4 in there right now. You can see the disciples terrified in the boat on the Sea of Galilee saying, we're going to die. And Jesus saying, why are you afraid? I'm here with you. You can see Mary and Martha saying, God, did you not care that our brother was sick? And Jesus saying, you have no idea how much I cared. And you can see the disciples walking back from Emmaus saying, we had no idea that was God we were talking to. But didn't our hearts burn within us? The awareness of the holiness of God is the difference in these stories. And in the Old Testament, God said, I will dwell with you, and the symbol will be an ark of my promise. And then Jesus came, and John says the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. Jesus was the ark of promise and presence for 33 years. And then Jesus left, and he said, I will never leave you alone. I'll send you my Spirit, and he'll be in you, and he'll be with you. And Paul said, now you are the temple of God. Kind of like now you are the Ark of the Covenant. You are the symbol of God's presence on this earth. Years ago, somebody gave me a plaque that said, bidden or not bidden, God is present. I have it in my office. Somebody told me that Martin Luther said it. I don't know if that's correct. Bidden or not bidden, God is present. Whether you ask him to be or not, he's there. It's just up to you to recognize it. And the presence of God can be as real in our homes, in our cars, in our schools, in our churches, as it was for Obed-Edom, symbolized by that gold box. Hope is in the house, and the question for us today is, are we going to be Uzzah, or are we going to be Obed-Edom? Are we going to ignore the presence of God for 20 years, or is it going to radically change our lives in a matter of days and months? The only explanation is that God is present. Early in the school year, I had an experience of this. There was a first grade class that had just gotten their class t-shirts. They were purple, and they said, first grade forever. And it was this beautiful shirt. They were all so excited, and the first day they got the shirts, we put them on and we went outside to take a picture because not everybody would have their shirts from that moment on. We just knew that. The picture from the yearbook had to be taken that morning. One problem, as we're all going outside, we had a new little girl who had just started at the school the day before, and I hadn't ordered a shirt for her. And she was upset, and everybody was lining up, and she was a little tearful, and I said, oh, don't worry about it. I'll order you a shirt today. It'll be here in a couple weeks. You'll have it for the field trip. No worries. Just go stand beside someone else. Nobody will know. And then we were getting everybody lined up, and she was right here, and she said, I don't have my shirt. I said, I know. It's okay. Trying to explain it to her quickly as we were getting this to happen. Try getting 18 first graders to hold still for a picture. I was busy. I said, it's okay. We were getting them together, and I was trying to put her in place, and she said, but I don't have a shirt. And she started to cry. And one of the little boys in first grade came running up, and he said, what's the matter? And I said, she doesn't have a class shirt. We're going to order one. We'll have it for the field trip. And like that, he pulled off his shirt. And he was standing there with his little white t-shirt on. And he gave it to her, and she put it on and took her place in the picture. The tears were dried. I said, Sam, that was so nice of you. Thank you. And we took the picture, and everyone headed back inside. And I said, Sam, why did you do that? That was really sweet. He said, it's what Jesus would have wanted me to do. The only explanation is that Jesus was in his heart. And I know his family, and I know that they read stories about what Jesus wants for us, and he took it seriously. And he felt Jesus there, and he pulled his shirt off. A first grader. Unbelievable. Only explanation is that God was there with him. What would you take from your house if it was on fire? Last fall, this area got asked that question in a little different way. What would you take from your house if a hurricane was heading towards you? We have another family in our school, and they were a little concerned about getting to work because of where they lived, so they threw their clothes for the next day, their work and school clothes, into a bag and went and stayed with some relatives just a few miles away. And during the night, the rivers rose, and their entire house and everything they owned was washed away. Everything. Their trophies, their plaques, their papers, their books, their pictures, their bedding, their towels, everything. I think the biggest thing for the fourth grader was his soccer outfit. It was gone. It was very hard. And I talked to the mom and I said, "How are you doing? How can we help?" She said, "This is strange, but our family is okay. Everything else can be replaced. It was horrible. It was upsetting, but we have felt the presence of God in a way that we never have before." And the only explanation for that is God is in the house. God is with them. To give them a peace that passes understanding. And their priorities were pretty straight. We have each other and we have God, and everything else we'll figure out. They are Obed-Edoms. And that's what I want for all of us today. I want you to leave with this blessing from Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. And as you overflow, may that touch the people around you. Will you pray with me? Thank you, Jesus, for this blessing, for this promise, and most of all for your presence that is here in this chapel, that is in each of our hearts, and that will go with us as we go our many different ways. Jesus, we love you, we praise you, and we're so grateful for you. Amen.